Welcome, Grow Live with Patty and Jackie.
Well, Patty, one of the most popular questions I get all the time is, what do I do about my organic lawn?
Oh my gosh, you know what? I can help you with your organic lawns because
Awesome.
I've been managing a park for now, this is the 14th year, and I've refused to use any chemicals on it. And then what lawns I keep at the school, they're all organic. And so the big trick is I'm going to give you the tips of how to do it. But the biggest thing that people that have peer pressure from neighbors or whatever have got to deal with your neighbors. That's a big problem, right? So you need to
Yes, and people write me that all the time. I get that all the time. My neighbors, they're spraying. That's a huge thing. Yes.
yes, and um, you need to communicate with them so that they know you are doing an organic lawn, and your organic lawn is going to look a little different, definitely different than a monocrop, because in those monocrops they're able to go out and kill every single broadleaf weed there is, and they have nothing but pure grass and usually one strain of grass. Where in our organic lawns we are more into diversity, and we want to be able to have multiple plants growing and different kinds of plants. So I'm going to share with you here some secrets that I have discovered in these. Well, first, let's talk about when I first started doing organic lawns, I took a deep dive in education and went
Oh,
in
I read that book too. It's great.
Paul Tukey and his videos. He has extremely long videos, but extremely informative. And he's been able to, he does safe lawns. He's been able to get other cities back east, and I think New York and Connecticut have it so that you can't use um, the chemicals on your lawns. So the rest of the states ought to get on the bandwagon. There's lots of people in Canada that are have them banned. I think the whole country does.
It's definitely not New York. They are all over New York.
Organic Lawn Care Manual by Paul, and it's Tukey, Tukey. And his videos are priceless. Another one that's super important is this one, Weed Control Without Chemicals.
Oh, I don't know
Yeah.
that one.
Yep. And so this one, every organic producer or anybody who wants to be natural should be use it as a handbook. Look, I've used it immensely. Weeds Control Without Poison. Charles Walker, Walters. So that's a good place to start on this deep dive as to how do I do this. So I'll share with you what I've been doing. Okay, so here is the tips. This is the biggest one. Do not mow the grass blades short. You absolutely, I set the mower at the highest level that it can mow, and that's the length of lawn I want. Why do I want that? I want those leaves to still be doing photosynthesis and doing as much of it as they possibly can. That will make the plant healthier, the roots bigger, the roots deeper. It'll make the plant feed more root exudates down there into the soil for the soil food web. It is the key. It's the answer. It is also the answer to controlling other weeds like crabgrass. Crabgrass wants to be in the sun. Well, you shade it with a taller grass, it's not going to be in the ballgame. Same way with your other weeds. Like I have one of my lawns has got bindweed in it, right? The second the kids mow the grass too short, the bindweed is having a heyday. It's just going crazy. So we don't want that. We want to keep that grass blades as tall as we can get it. So my mower set at 4 inches. You could go with 3.5. That's what Paul recommends, but that's the key. So don't mow it unless it's taller than that. It's
It
very
also
simple.
makes a huge difference, like in August when you don't get a lot of rain. It stays greener so much longer. It's just
Yes,
insane.
yes, because you haven't stressed it. And so that's causing way less stress. When you mow off those grass blades, now the plant has to take the energy that it was putting into the soil food web through the roots. and energy into growing roots back into growing leaves. And so it sheds roots. Of all things you want, you do not want your grass plant shedding roots. You want those roots go deep. And so another way to help that is make sure that you don't remove the clippings. They should be mulched with a mulching mower, or in our case, we don't have a mulching mower. We just cut the grass in a different direction each time. So every time we blow the mulch clippings back in the lawn, we're blowing them into a different spot. That's going
Oh,
to
what a
feed
good
nitrogen
idea.
to your.
I said, what a good idea.
Yes, and it really keeps the lawn healthy. Now people have this belief that that builds up thatch, but thatch is built up from you applying too much nitrogen. So we don't apply any artificial nitrogens to these lawns. The grass clippings is nitrogen itself. They're also going to feed the soil food web for you and get those worms to working. And it's going to make the soil a little cooler, encourage lots deeper, healthier roots. This is another one. Man, in the city, what did they got a thing about? I'm not against city people or anything, but there is definitely a thing where that they have to water grass every day. That is just the biggest wrong thing to do. The lawns I'm managing are not irrigated, right? We don't even run a sprinkler on them. So you don't have to do that. You do have to change your management practice. So you're going to have to keep these taller grasses and build a root system in order to start reducing this water. And when you do water, you water deep, like water for a long period of time, then shut off the water. Don't water again for another week. Test the soil, put your fingers in it, use a shovel if you have to, find out if it needs water. If it doesn't need water, do not add the water. Don't do it. Another thing you could do, a lot of people have weeds that are showing you that they have compaction, so you might as well rent an aerator or a plugger. It takes a little plug out of the soil, and you add compost when you do that, and then make any amendment of calcium. Most people need to add calcium in order to get the compaction problem fixed. So our dandelion is telling us both things. We have compaction and we need calcium. So you add it, then it will start helping the situation. So this is an example of the park that we're using or mowing organically. You want to mow in a different direction each time. So we take the longest strip first, and then the next time the kids come back and mow, they're going to mow on a diagonal. So it ends up looking like a diamond shape, like a baseball diamond. Kids kind of think that's cool, and it looks really good. Another thing I like to allow the diversity in, you go organic with your lawn, you will have diversity in your lawns. White clover, white Dutch clover used to be in all lawn mixes before they started broadcasting golf on TV. It was in all of them, right? Because it's in there to help feed nitrogen to the grass. And it's very low growing. You know, it will not need mowed before the grass needs mowed. Looks really nice, and I think it's a good way to go. So early in the spring, I have lilies of the valley in part of my lawns, and they just creep right out into the lawn, and I allow them to do so. They're only going to be there for a short period of time in the spring, and when I mow them off, then they're not noticeable after that. Super easy, kind of neat. This is yarrow, and we use it in the pathways, and that is not mowed. It's not trimmed, nothing. That's just from foot traffic and compaction, keeps it that short. And so it will creep though. So if you're putting it right up next to a garden bed, it's going to creep into your garden bed. But in the lawn situation, you're going to be able to control it by foot traffic.
But it's good for your garden beds, right? And yarrow keeps the mosquitoes away, so bonus.
Yeah, and it's a unbelievable healer. I mean, they use it for all kinds of things. Here's another example. This is at the school, and that lawn is mowed probably half as many times as even that park is, because it's in a place that's not really out in the open. We've been able to fill in really bad spots that don't have very good soil at all, because when they built this school, they buried an old school, and there isn't a lot of topsoil anywheres. And so we've been able to heal that by mowing tall and scattering grass seed, clover, or planting clover plugs or yarrow plugs or their seeds in any of the bare spots really gets it going. Now you don't want to put yarrow where you don't want it to look like lawn because it will, it can be aggressive. And in fact, some states have it as a weed to not use. So there's a video that I learned a lot from, and it's very short, from Planet Naturals owner Eric Viney. It's Vine, or Binje. And Eric has done just tremendous amounts of research and has got it all free there on the web for people to use under Planet Natural. But his little video on organic lawns is called 4 Simple Tips for an Organic Lawn. It's very short, to the point, and very good. And so I would check that out.
We get violets in our lawn too, which are fun and pretty.
Yeah, and I have little shamrocks in part of my lawn.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're really cool looking too. Okay, let's see what questions we got. Any questions? We just got a name, name on the book, right, Lori? So the 2 books is Weed Control Without Poisons, and it goes over all kinds of weeds. It goes extensively into what to do. So with the dandelion, get gypsum put out there, try to relieve some compaction. All right, Jackie, you got any questions?
Well, the one question that people are always asking me, they're like, after all this, they'll be like, but what do I go to the store and buy?
What do you
It drives me crazy. I'm like, you don't need to go to the store and buy anything.
Okay, so Sue wants to know, do you apply gypsum before applying calcium? So the calcium is in the gypsum. So gypsum is just a form of calcium, and it's going to help with the compaction, and it's going to get calcium into the soil and available to the plants so that it will flocculate the soil, which opens the soil up so it can breathe. And so that's a huge problem with compaction, is we're not getting air down in there, right? Everything needs air, including the plant, soil microbes, worms, everybody. So that gypsum is a calcium product that you could apply it twice a year if you want. And it does come in liquid. So if you was irrigating, you could put it liquid through your irrigation if you wanted to, or just apply it and then water afterwards. You do want to water it down, especially if you get the pelleted kind. You don't want the birds picking those up. So you want that to get watered.
Oh, good to know, because I have those
Yeah,
pelleted.
yes, yep. Water heavily after you put them down, or right before. I tried to do it right before rain. So there is a rate on that bag, and it's a very self-explanatory, and it's a very inexpensive product. It doesn't cost hardly anything. I think that's probably why they don't promote it. Doesn't Nobody's making a lot of money on gypsum, but
Yeah.
I picked up mine in a bigger box store when I was in a big town last time, and works great. If I was going to put in a brand new organic lawn, I would put
Oh, good
down
one.
an inch of organic compost. Um, doesn't have to be organic, I guess, just compost. Even if you have to get it from your big suppliers of your big cities that are compost and food waste.
Yeah, because you're not eating it.
You're not eating it. You're just trying to get the microbes out there and our quorum sensing signals out there to get the plant working with the microbes, feed the microbes, and get everybody going back healthy again. So I think they recommend a 1/2 inch to an inch, but in Paul's book, it explains it thoroughly of how to start an organic lawn, all the steps to it. But I would probably put
You know,
go ahead, Jackie.
one of my guests talked about, she moved from California to Idaho, and the people, that built the house, that did the lawn, put in, the Kentucky bluegrass sod, and she was so bummed because she talked to her neighbors after the next spring, and she wished she would have put in a native fescue grass. So that's something I'll add. Make sure you get a native lawn, because the Kentucky bluegrass was not meant for her lawn in Idaho, and she just ended up fighting it, and it was full of weeds and it just didn't take well. And her neighbors were like, oh, you should have got this other grass seed that was, local to Idaho and not something from like New Jersey or wherever she got it from. So that's
Yeah.
something to think about when they bring in those big rolls of sod. You're better off trying to find a local grass seed that's
Yeah.
native to your area.
Yeah. And I use blue grandma. It's a bunch grass. It's short, has extremely deep roots, right? Extremely deep rooted plant, 6 to 10 foot deep root system in it, or larger. And here the plant's only gets 6 inches tall and has just a cute little seed head. I let the seed heads come on, and then I'll let those mature and mow them off. And now I just replanted a whole bunch of expensive seed that would have cost me a lot of money otherwise to do that in the fall. As summer's on, it's getting dry, or you got the lawn mowed at 4 inches tall, just let it go. Just let it go and let the seed get mature, mow it off, and now you've just reseeded. And nature's going to take care of it from there, right? When the timing is right and the moisture's right, it will take off and go.
Did you see Eileen had a question about fish emulsion?
The fish emulsions, no, that's nitrogen. And so if you need nitrogen, you can put it on. You can use that. But you can also buy organic lawn fertilizer that's got fish and kelp and all kinds of stuff in it. It's a little bit more expensive than your normal fertilizer. I've never had to do it on the lawns by using the practices I just taught you. But if you think you need to, go for it. But anytime you add extra nitrogen, don't matter if it's natural or unnatural, you're encouraging plants to grow like crabgrass, um, dandelions love nitrogen. And so they're trying to use the excess up. And so most of the problems we have in agriculture today is from a farmer or agriculturalist applying too much of something, right? We have too much nitrogen and too much phosphorus, for example, in all agriculture, that we have to get those used up. The plants, which we call weeds, are trying to use that up. So I just warn a little bit of caution, I guess, with that. I don't know. I think the lawns that I'm managing is green enough, but I'm not trying to go out and win a golf tournament with them or a contest. So that's part of getting your neighbor to know I'm not going to be out there competing with you for the darkest, blackest green lawn. You just want to
My
help.
mom and I came up with the best idea. Instead of those little yellow flags all her neighbors have that say, don't walk here for 24 hours, because like that's one of the things that came up on my podcast is like your lawn is where, your toddlers are running. They're
Yeah,
close, their lungs are much closer to the lawn than an adult where they've done all these tests. Your pets are running along the lawn. Their lungs are tinier and smaller, and they're ingesting all those chemicals much more than humans. And so we came up with this idea. Instead of those little yellow flags that people who have organic lawns, we're going to get these neon green flags that they're going to keep out and put out that say, earth friendly lawn. Or my mom came up with this saying like happy lawn, no spray, and just so people can see. And I think that will catch on, because I hate those little yellow flags that say don't let your dog walk on this lawn for 24 hours. It's just my hugest pet peeve.
yeah. You could maybe gift the person that's using the chemical spray with the little yellow signs, the skull and crossbones, because it is deadly, right? And Paul Tukey, if you get into his big videos, they're like an hour to 2 hours long. He's going to talk about he was a chemical lawn care manager and
Oh,
running this big business, right? And what do those people wear? Shorts, right?
suits. Oh,
Light shoes, right? So he was the one applying the chemicals, and he got really, really
right.
sick.
I
Sick
remember that.
to the point where he was in the hospital, and he decided he needed to appoint someone else in his staff to do what he was doing. He had to pay him extra to get him to do what he was doing. And then he dawned on him, he's like, oh my gosh, I'm asking my employees to get deathly sick or die from something that I know is hurting me and my family. Where's does my toddler hug me at? From the waist down, right? That's full of chemical every day. So yeah, you have to watch it, read his story, and watch his stuff. And anybody with any common sense would say, I'm done with all of that. I don't care if it's cute, says weed be gone or whatever. All of it is no good, right? All of that weed be gone stuff is just a cousin to Agent Orange that has annihilated the Vietnam vets and all of the what went on in Vietnam with Agent Orange. That stop, people. We don't need any of that.
Yeah, I don't
Okay,
think
what's
need
your
those-
question, Lori?
Oh, I was just gonna say I don't think they need those yellow flags. All you need to do is look at the lawn, and if it's perfect, no weeds, then be afraid.
Exactly. Yeah, that should be the first
But-
warning system.
Yeah.
Yeah. Same with the football kids. When my kid played football, I'm like, oh my God, this is horrible. They're out there getting their heads shoved into the soil and grass that's full of chemical. I'm like, yeah. Or who started this show? Who asked this question? Fired up here.
Let's talk about clover.
Yes. Let's talk about clover.
I planted some clover this year, and I inoculated it, but I was confused. I mean, you have to wet it to inoculate it. And so what I ended up with was kind of clumps I just kind of sprinkled it, but I ended up with clumps everywhere, and it's growing in really thick in so I'm confused about the process, because you're supposed to plant it right after you inoculate it, but it's wet. And how do you spread it evenly? How does that work?
Okay, so when the farmers put an inoculant on it, so they fill their seed tray, which is in a drill, with seed, and then they pour the inoculant on top, and then they stir it around. Sometimes they'll run their seed through an auger and they blow that dry inoculant onto the seed, so they're not actually getting it wet.
Okay.
But for what we've been talking about, we get everything wet, right? Or for our seed treats and stuff. So it is a little confusing. So the next time, just use that powder as a dry. Just roll your seeds all in it and put your seeds out. And then if they're extra inoculant, spread it out across the ground. That will be fine. Now that it's started though, so those plugs, I call them plugs now because you got a big wad of clover growing together, and they got rhizomatous root system. They're going to travel out. You can just go take a little trowel, cut it open, take part of it away and stick it in another spot. I know that sounds like work, but it does work really well. And now that new plug is going to travel out into its area. So each plant, I would give it at least a foot. So of space it's going to fill in by itself. And so, yeah, even though it looks sparse in the beginning, you think, well, this didn't work. But you just keep watering it and it'll take off.
Okay.
Especially if your soil needs nitrogen, right? That's what the plant's mission is. So if you have too much clover and you think, wow, I got way too much clover, sure, buy some fertilizer, some organic fertilizer that will have nitrogen in it, or your fish, Eileen, and put it out, right? It's going to, what is the plant trying to do? What is its job? It's trying to put nitrogen down. So if I put nitrogen down, then I'm not going to have as lush and aggressive clover as if I didn't put it down. Does that make sense? So we're just trying to figure out, what is this plant's job? What's it trying to do? We do the job for it, and then it'll relax, not be so eager.
Congratulations, Lori, because we planted clover and then we thought it was going to rain. It didn't, so it didn't grow, and we didn't water it. So kudos to you for getting it to grow, because it's not the easiest. Did we inoculate it? I don't remember, because we did it like in April, early spring.
Yeah, the clover's growing better than the grass, or the new grass anyway, that I tried to plant with it. So
Yeah, and it really takes just religious watering. That's the only time I really water a lot, is when I'm putting in grass seed, clover seed,
And we
so
had a really dry spring. Did you guys ever, like, we had rain this week, but up until this week, it's been dry as a bone here.
yeah, it was pretty dry. I was watering a lot, for sure, before the last
Yeah.
couple.
And you could put, right after you put the seed down, you take really chopped up leaves, super chopped up leaves. Blow them over the area so they're not too thick, but a little bit of leaf cover. That'll give it some mulch, right, to really help those baby seeds get going and give them some protection. Same way with your grasses, they can handle a little bit of that mulching,
Oh.
and it'll protect the soil from the sun, keep things moisture. It'll really help them get going. Any other questions? Because we're going to roll. I have got things to plant outside, and I'm sure so do you. Any questions, Sue?
Great job, Patty. Woo!
Eileen? Any questions? Eileen's like, I got plenty of lawn. I don't need more lawn. How about Lacey?
Not that I can think of this moment.
Okay. Sue, get some ideas?
Yeah.
Yay. Okay,
Thanks.
we're going to go. Happy growing. Grow healthy, everyone.
Happy
Thank you,
growing.
everybody.